Well, after seeing this, I will say I'm looking forward to the sequel. Win, get back up. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a Netflix film I finally got around to seeing, Windfall. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you were planning on seeing it, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content, like more Netflix reviews, on a near-daily basis. But let's not waste any more time, and let's talk about Windfall. This stars Jason Segel as a man who breaks into a tech billionaire's empty vacation home. But things go sideways when the arrogant mogul and his wife, played by Plemons and Lilly, arrive for a last-minute getaway. This is written and directed by Charlie McNeil, and it hit Netflix all the way back in March. It's described as a Hitchcockian thriller, and it especially aims for the feel of some of Hitchcock's contained, smaller-scale films like Rope, especially as our three leads, besides one other person, are our only characters, with a lot of the plot driven by these very tense, sharp exchanges among all three of them. All of them are unnamed, as they just go by the robber, the CEO, and his wife. And I loved the sense of claustrophobia evoked through these conversations. And it's hard not to enjoy this style on display here, with the tight close-ups and especially the great use of music to enhance the tension and actually heighten some of the moments of silence. The film's technical achievements were some of its strongest elements, and they would drive several scenes forward in a way without it ever coming across as too in your face. But of course, if just about the entire film revolves around only three people, you do have to look at the performances, and everyone here was great. I thought Jason Segel did a solid job of channeling that kind of sad sack energy he can have about him into this desperate, somewhat complicated robber who has some sort of grudge against his CEO and who you see hesitates to assert himself and issue threats, but he has to in order to maintain control of the situation. And then Lily Collins is also good here as the wife, who we discover as things go on is unhappy with her marriage, and we dive a little into that more as the night goes on and the robber is forced to be with this couple a lot longer than expected. And of the three of them, I'd say she's the most sympathetic of the bunch. But if anything, Jesse Plemons absolutely steals the show here as this arrogant CEO who can move nicely back and forth between being very charming, but also having this sharp wit about him that can make him feel pretty mean-spirited, which puts him repeatedly at odds with Segel. And because he sees that this robber does hesitate and is vulnerable, it makes him confident enough to go back at him with no problem. So I'd say any of the exchanges with Plemons were easily the highlight for me, and his performance was my favorite of all three of them. However, I would say though that while this film all comes together to make for a solid enough film, I wouldn't quite say I loved it. I'd say it's worth watching at least once, but at the end of the day, this felt more just like an acting exercise than anything. Now, some people might have an issue with its more restrained, slow burn approach, and I actually didn't mind that so much, especially with the style and the performances all going hand in hand nicely, so that the film felt like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode later on, and I found when things began to escalate, it worked really well. But when you actually start getting into the character motivations and backstories, I think that's where the film really stumbles. We understand the personality traits of all three leads, but we don't uncover anything major about most of them until much later on. And I felt that some of the revelations that were meant to come across as these profound moments, in particular the marital troubles between Collins and Plemons, the way that they're just explained to us rather than really being shown to us, it just didn't have quite that much of an emotional impact as I think it should have. Like when characters are essentially just telling us how they feel rather than really getting to express it, that only goes so far on an emotional level. And the same thing goes for Segel's motivations. When we eventually learn why he's doing what he's doing, and because it's not until the very end of the movie, it just feels a little too late. So while I definitely felt the tension all throughout this, and it made it a fun enough watch, the emotion and characterizations felt like they could have gone just a step further. Windfall overall was a solid enough time, but one that felt like it needed just a bit more. While the performances are great, and I liked its noir, Hitchcockian style, the problem is it can at times feel a little like style over substance, as the plot felt a little thin at times, and the characterizations were only given to us in explanations. Now, I was engaged all the way through it, and for that, I still think it's worth checking out, but it just needed a little more on an emotional level, so just don't expect a new classic in the genre or anything. Windfall gets a 6.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Windfall, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like the performances? Did you think it recreated that Hitchcockian feel well? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it. And for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.